when I consume you. You know, you guys are, you know, returning to Fantasia, you know, where you launched They Look Like People. How are you feeling about, you know, taking it back to the Fantasia crowd?
Evan?
Yes, enthusiastic fist raise.
Yeah, there'll be like stars around that in parentheses. We are incredibly excited to come back to Fantasia. It was by far our favorite festival experience the first time around.
Agreed.
Yeah, we didn't, the movie, our first film, They Look Like People, had played festivals but never a genre festival, and I think coming here made us sort of reevaluate festivals and screenings and, you know, everything, because the team and the fans and the kind of culture here is great. We're really happy to be back.
Yeah, it really introduced us to the genre community. Like, it was our introduction, our education, our degree in how genre can function so effectively in this world. Yeah, sorry, MacLeod, I think I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna talk about how amazing Mitch is, and like, it's the one downside is I don't get to see his face and like give him a hug, because they're so welcoming and create such a wonderful atmosphere. Like, you feel like part of the family when you go there. So, and they're doing a really amazing job, you know, maintaining that feeling digitally, which is much appreciated. But yeah, so it's awesome.
Yeah, you guys going to be hanging out in the Gather Town at any point?
That thing is amazing.
We tried. Yeah.
We tried. We played Set for a while. Is that what it was called?
There's a card game. There's a card game in the
game
lounge that
yeah, we went to one of the happy hours and we all found each other and then ended up just like playing one of these card games and getting really into it for far too long.
It gets very intense very quickly.
Barry was pretty good at it. I couldn't understand. I couldn't find my way around it.
I mean, obviously this time, you know, you've gained a teammate in Libby. You know, Libby, how did you get involved with the project?
Yeah, so I became involved through Evan. Evan and I, he was one of my first friends in Los Angeles. We were in an acting group together, an acting class together, and he was making these movies with these two dudes and Margaret as well. And Evan and I became really fast friends. And so then I think it was after They Look Like People, and then you guys made the Siren, and I was like privileged enough to kind of follow that film through its trajectory and see early cuts and like become a huge fan. And then Perry wrote this script and Evan brought it to my attention, and I was like, whatever I can do to get involved with these guys, and I'm gonna do it. So it just was like kismet. It was perfect. And then I met Perry. It was.
Libby being a part of it was, it took it to a whole nother level. I mean, both in front of and behind the camera, she is a rock star. So, it was an incredible gift. Thank you, Evan, for bringing her in.
Well, I mean, she's so damn good. I really didn't have an option. I just needed to start ringing the bell and be like, come on, she's in, come on.
It just is like, I was really drawn to the intimate way that they create their films, and it was something that sat really right with me, and I just needed to get my hands into the mix too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, as much as everyone has their assigned roles, you know, this team, you know, does feel, you know, like you are a cohesive, collaborative team. You know, how does that dynamic work when you guys are on set together?
I think, I mean, it's hard to describe. I guess that there's, you know, we make movies in a very sort of specific way in some ways, or not specific, but, you know, a very intimate way, tiny crews. And there's sort of pluses and minuses, and the pluses is you really just get to focus on acting, directing, storytelling, and that's kind of it, you know, and so it's all for that. But there's also, you know, it's also really hard. Like you're sort of by yourself. You're doing props and sound and cinematography and set design and, you know, producing and all the things all at once. It's very cold in Greenpoint at night, and we were out all night till 5 a.m., you know, just us. And And I think that but Libby was unbelievable because she just was like, I think I mean, I got to tell the story because I have so much admiration for her. I got really sick at the end of the shoot, and I had to direct like this, and I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. And then I found out later that Libby was sick for like 10 days or like 2 weeks in the middle of the shoot and never said anything, never complained once. And this was out in like zillion below zero weather out in the middle of Greenpoint. So I was like, God, like she's like schooling us in our own shooting method here. Like this is intense. So I think it's sort of like, it's a real, these are passion projects, and there's wonderful things and there's difficult things. And I think we sort of always hold it all together because we love working together and love the stuff that we make.
Yeah, and I think we're all so deeply invested in all parts of making it that like we sort of become an accountability crew too. Like everybody can sort of rally around each other because as an actor, you're not just thinking like, oh, what are my lines today? Like in a lot of ways that takes the pressure off of it because we're thinking about the whole movie and the whole story, and we all want to pull it forward. And that, I mean, it feels really wonderful to be a part of a team like that.
Yeah, like working on it, it was helped not to get too precious about scenes because it was like, okay, I need to go in and get, to this place emotionally. And then afterwards I have to go make a few buckets of blood and like set up something. And like, that's just my day. And like have a cup of coffee in the middle of it.
I mean, with Libby and Evan, you're playing brother and sister, and getting the fact that, you have known each other for a while, that really helped sort of build that connection.
Yeah, I mean, it was hugely helpful. She also happens to be an incredible actor. And then while we were on set, Libby and I actually lived together. And so we were sort of developing that brother-sister relationship 24 hours a day. And like Libby and I would leave set and walk home together and sort of download on our day. And we had this like bench in this park that we always walked through, that walking through alone would be terrifying, but walking through together was beautiful. And we'd sort of like take 10 minutes on this park bench and sort of download about our day and talk about our next day, and also just talk about life. And like a milestone for me, weirdly, is that Libby really wanted to get a dog at that time, like really wanted to. And so we'd be like scrolling puppy pictures and stuff like that, which is lovely. And then she did get a dog, and I love this dog. And so like that milestone for me, like is tied to the movie very closely.
Yeah. I just feel like maybe that was our way of like coping with some of the darkness in the film. Like, let's go sit on the bench and just talk about puppies for a little bit. But it was like, we did click into this really natural dynamic. I would like put out our vitamins for the day, just that like sort of older sibling, younger brother thing. Like we brush our teeth, we do the things that we need to do to get out of the house.
And we really, really, really wanted to stay healthy, and
yeah,
we sort of did. And so we would do shots of, do you remember doing the shots of oregano oil?
Shots of oregano oil.
I think I had one and I did not.
It was not good. It was not good.
It felt a little bit like when you're swimming in a lake and you like snort like a bunch of lake water into your lungs.
But also we worked really closely. I mean, Perry was a huge part of that process as well, like creating backstories, and we did a lot of rehearsal before we hopped into, I'm really sorry, this is my dog, the puppy, who's now a full-blown dog. We had a lot of rehearsal time creating these characters.
Yep. And we would,
go on. No, you go on.
Oh, I was just going to say that Libby and I were here in LA. And so we would like do these rehearsals, and we'd like rehearse the film like a play. And then we'd send it to Perry and get our notes back and do like, basically Zoom sessions while we're rehearsing. It was just as interactive as we could be, being bi-coastal.
I remember how foreign Zoom felt back then. It was like,
totally.
Oh my God, we're talking on the internet. Whoa. Whoa. Very weird. Anyway, sorry, Kat.
That's fine. I mean, often when you see a brother-sister dynamic on screen, which isn't really that often, it's the brother who is the strongest and the more protective. But here, it's Daphne who shelters Wilson. What made you sort of decide to interpret the relationship in this way?
I don't know. I think that the script had been in my head, some version of it for about 10 years, maybe 8 or 9 years. And I think that there was always this feeling of sort of a duo, and one, they had sort of different ways of being. One, if there was a problem, they would sort of be scared and run away and hope it stopped. And the other one would just hit it in the face before it, they got a chance to do anything. And I think that, I don't know, I think it was always part of it that it was Daphne that was going to be the sort of super protective one, and Wilson that was going to be forced kicking and screaming to grow up. And that she would be sort of not forced, but become brave enough to be able to let go of that ferocious need to sort of like attack no matter what. There's a great moment, and I don't even know if this was in the script or an improv line, but when they're playing that game together, and then Wilson's like, so are you saying you attack? And she's like, fuck yes, I attack. And like that to me is like, Libby's delivery there was like, that's sort of the character. Like, and I think that the two of them brought things to it that, took the script and then just made it something, totally incredible in their own.
She plays with an instant damage deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think
Meteor shower.
Yeah. Thank you, MacLeod. I know exactly what you're talking about. We'll see how many people in the audience do.
I don't, as you can tell. I'm like, how do we play this game? I think that was my way into Daphne was her love for her brother and protecting her brother. I get that. I have siblings, so that just like made sense to me, and then it allowed me to click into her and then go to those places of like kind of a delightful fight that was like actually it's very dark, but it was so joyful to actually play and to get to express that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think as me, I operate with like an extremely high level of sort of pep and optimism in my actual life. And I think that in the prep for this, I think I had to look under that layer of what I think is probably learned behavior and sort of figure out what that's playing against. And so Wilson was a scary place for me to go just in that way, because it was sort of all of the weaknesses that I'm probably wearing armor every day to try to cover up in my sort of normal day-to-day operations. So walking around for like weeks in that outside of the filming experience and preparing for that and sort of understanding how that made me feel and how other people reacted to that was terrifying and like really helpful to build out the character.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the other things I really liked is, so often in films, you see people who have obviously had some sort of trauma or whatever in their past. They're either a complete broken mess and they can't get out of bed, or they're the villain of the piece, because God forbid somebody from a well-adjusted house becomes bad. Why do you think it's so important to represent that? I mean, we all deal with some sort of past trauma in some way, and we are all just trying to get on with things, but you don't often see that portrayed in film.
It's funny how a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily conscious, but I think what you're saying is great, and I think what I sort of noticed is sometimes with these past coming back to haunt you stories is that the ending was either nihilism, or stab the bad guy in the face, yay, everything's perfect forever. And I think that in my experience, in the experience of my loved ones, dealing with the past and dealing with your sort of demons is really difficult and stays difficult, but it doesn't mean that you can't keep kind of fighting it. And I think that the sort of there's a kind of groundedness to the film in that way that I wanted to bring out. And I also think that there's a lot of, I think in my adult life, what I've realized is that there's so many people walking around with so much pain under the surface, and that just many of people getting, like, being able to get by, have good relationships, have a good job is a huge triumph, and also extremely courageous. And I kind of wanted to tell that courageous story of just these two people and all the stuff that they've had to fight against.
And obviously Evan and MacLeod, you guys started out playing best friends in They Look Like People, and sort of rivals in a way in the Siren, and now you're playing mortal enemies that battle each other. What was that experience like?
It's just the progression of our relationship,
MacLeod, why don't you take this first?
I mean, I miss Evan. I miss being nice to Evan. I miss hugging Evan. No, it was, I mean, this is what was really fun about it. Whereas Libby and Evan like hunkered together and rehearsed together, other than the fight sequences, I made a point of rehearsing with all my other friends, because my job was to kind of come into the movie and grab it by the lapels and just throw it against the wall. And so I didn't want Evan to really know how I was going to come at him. I wanted him to be back on his heels. So yeah, it was challenging because I had to throw a whole lot at him in like 2 nights. But so I kind of had to reserve all of that kind of aggression, flip the switch that, that says, don't treat people awful. And instead just kind of be like, no, you can, and do it. Yes, do it. Treat this person awful. You have permission when the camera rolls, you may be an awful person, which is always a little scary and not the best, but it's also what acting is, I guess. And
yeah, MacLeod's a huge part of my life, making these films all the time and being very close friends on and off camera. And he didn't exactly run his plan by me first, because he's a professional and he made his choices for his character and what he was going to do. But that isolation from my actual friend, as well as the relationship to the character, informed a lot about the way that I felt when I was building Wilson. And so I tried to integrate that, but man, oh man, that was hard for me, on a couple of levels. But I think it really contributed to our scene work too. And I think that, especially when They Look Like People, I would look through eyes of sort of deep relationship at MacLeod. And so being on the other side of that cold stare it was just really different. And, I tried to roll with it, but it was a unique experience making this one together, for sure.
But the fight training was awesome.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was one of the more challenging parts for me. I've been a physical person my whole life, but MacLeod has a history in clowning. Please ask him about that. And so we did the fight training in Los Angeles with a real pro, Kerry Wong, that MacLeod brought into the team. And that was something that, ultimately it's not the thing that we want people to focus on in the movie necessarily, but it was a production thing that was exciting for us to just learn a new thing and how to integrate it into our filmmaking.
Well, come on, MacLeod, clowning.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no.
The reason that I didn't know very much about this, but it is so when he told me about it, it's so physical, it's so demanding, it's so intense, and rigorous. And anyway, I just wanted to
What's so rigorous, so intense?
Clowning. I didn't realize it was what it was.
No, so what's the equivalent in the UK of middle school for the US? 6th to 8th grade. I'm 12, anyway, preteen, kind of 12 to 14 years old or whatever. The drama teacher at my school was a former Ringling Brothers clown. And Ringling Brothers clowning is basically you're a living cartoon, and it is all heavy physical comedy and intense stunt work too. When I was 13, and he'd be there'd be a 12-foot ladder, and he'd be okay, cool, today we're gonna fall off the ladder in 3 different ways. You're ah! And then they're okay, yeah, go up there, sit on the top of it, and then this other guy's gonna whoa, and then it's gonna fall over, and you're just gonna fall 12 feet. And then there's of course the ladder slide, where it's you slip and you slide going on the rungs. Then there was a move he made up where where for me, where you run up the ladder and your feet slip through the rungs and you roll backwards, basically off and down the ladder, because you catch your feet, then you put your hands down and you catch the rung below you and flip kind of down onto the ground. The worst though is like if you're doing a chair. Sorry, this is all pent up. I didn't realize how much I had to talk about clowning. But I ended up losing my nerve because there's like a typical one is a chair routine. 3 clowns fighting over a chair. Who gets to sit in it? Because there's only one chair. Like, and you know, the inevitable thing is somebody gets a running start to like dive at the person, and they go, "Oh, I'm gonna tie my shoe," and they bend over, and you go sailing over them, and then you just land on concrete on your chest. And I lost my nerve in 8th grade. So like at 14, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Are you sure this was a middle school and that this was a middle school teacher?
Yeah.
Those are very different times now.
Yeah. They had a great insurance policy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Libby, you know, you also, you know, you have some fighting in the film, you know, training. Was that something that, you know, you'd done before, or was it again something that you learned for the film?
No, I didn't. And I did train. I trained with this retired boxer who's amazing, Tyrell Hendricks. He is Los Angeles on Instagram, if you'd like to follow him. He's amazing. And I went into the boxing gym and I was like, this is great. I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to be amazing. And it was, I mean, I like threw up every time I was in session with him. And there's like mirrors all around you. And so I went from like, okay, I'm going to become an amazing boxer for this film to like, my only job is just to kind of look like I know what I'm doing. Just like pass it off, throw a punch that's at least successful so I won't embarrass myself. And I think we got there.
Yeah.
I think we did. But it was, I did some training for it. And it was really fun and much, much more difficult than I gave it credit for originally.
I mean, obviously, you know, Evan and MacLeod, you've worked on some projects outside of with Perry. And with MacLeod, you brought somebody back with you from A Ghost Waits. You brought your composer, is that right?
Yeah, Mitch Bain. So good. I love Mitch.
Oh my God. Yeah, working with Mitch has been a really positive experience. I mean, his work is really wonderful. And I think that Perry, I'll let you speak to it, but your back and forth has been pretty exceptional to watch because you're both musical. And so there's that language, that shorthand that I see you guys going back and forth on. And I'm just very impressed with it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was so wonderful for me, especially because I think, you know, I've worked in tech, you know, on the sort of creative side of tech, and now I'm, you know, working with professionals, right, doing television stuff. And so I've worked in different circles and I know how different circles work. And so when I bring in people from elsewhere to our little crew, I'm kind of like, okay, it's like this though. And they're like, I got it. I'm like, no, it's like this though. And sometimes people are like, wait, I didn't know it would be like this, you know, because it's like very, you know, we're in a lot of communication. We all work extremely hard, late hours, you know, it's like very, you know, tons of passion and very all consuming. And so I'm always have a little bit of trepidation when a new person, you know, we bring someone else in. But Mitch was just like, yes anding everything and was just like, yes, and like over delivering and coming up with new things that I hadn't even thought of. And I can't tell you, I mean, I don't think I had that experience so intensely, so quickly like that, except possibly with Libby. So it was so wonderful to work with him, and what a great guy. And the movie is transformed because of his work.
And I mean, you know, your first film focused on friendship, the second film focused on love, the third family. What's next for you guys?
No, all together, like Voltron.
You're alien.
Or none of them. What's left after those?
I know.
Just like, no, I mean, so we, you know, of course, nonsensically, as soon as we sort of turned in this film, all of us were like, what can we make next? After, you know, busting our ass on this for, you know, this project of love for several years. I think that's still in the works. Yeah, but we're excited about it. I hadn't thought about it philosophically like that. I feel like that must be brought into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, we've been throwing around quite a few different story ideas, and we've already got plans very soon to be on set. But I think that, I don't know, oftentimes the themes come through the experience of it as well. And I think it certainly comes in your writing process, but you know, the underlying themes aren't always the thing that is coming up immediately from your sort of id, right? And then it comes through the editing and the creation, and then also the feedback loop sometimes, where elements where we laid out seeds really have audiences respond to that, and then that is a part of the conversation, which is pretty cool.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you best of luck with the screening at Fantasia.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kat.
So I have to ask MacLeod, how's the toilet seat?
Doing good. You know, it's the pandemic has been great for it.
I think that was the sort of the second that a ghost waits got me was, you know, we've all been there sort of like moaning about, you know, something that somebody's done or said to us, and you know, just I don't know, there was just something very, very pure about that scene. So
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I could have watched like 30 minutes of it, an hour, just you with the toilet.
Just talking to the toilet. You hungry? No, I'm okay.
It did feel, I mean, I love that moment too. Very sort of existential in some ways. Yeah.
And I guess now knowing about the clowning background, it kind of, some of Jack makes a little bit more sense, I guess.
Yeah, that was something that was fun about playing Jack, is getting to kind of go a little bit more broad and bring some of that from my youth up into it. That was fun. Like the scene where he runs in the house and slips. That was
yeah.
Sort of,
yeah. Well, I will let you guys get back to your day, and you know, thank you again for the film. And I will be there again when you guys all work together on the next one. This, you know, I really do genuinely like the work that you guys are putting out. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kat. Really nice to catch up with you.